There was a secret city, buried deep within a mountain, a sanctuary for the chosen few. And in 1958, you held the coordinates in your hand. This was your pass to survive the end of the world. But it came with an impossible command. When the sirens began their final wail, you were ordered to walk away from your family and disappear into the earth forever. You were one of them, part of a shadow government ready to rise from the ashes. They had a script for rebuilding America, a step-by-step guide for a world scoured clean by atomic fire. But what was the final, most secret protocol on their Doomsday checklist? And what chilling assumption did it make about the millions, like your own family, left to die? The world had changed forever on August 6, 1945. The fire that consumed Hiroshima cast a long shadow, and by 1949 that shadow had a name, Joe 1, the first successful Soviet atomic bomb. The American monopoly on nuclear terror was over. The Cold War had begun, and for the first time, the continental United States was vulnerable to instantaneous annihilation. In late 1950, President Harry Truman established the Federal Civil Defense Administration, which blanketed the country in optimistic propaganda. School children practiced duck and cover drills, and families were encouraged to build backyard fallout shelters. But behind this thin veneer of public preparedness, the highest levels of government were planning for a much grimier reality. They knew that a full-scale Soviet nuclear assault would not be survivable for the vast majority. So they began to build a secret America, a network of bunkers and protocols designed not to save the country, but to replace it. When President Dwight D. Eisenhower took office in 1953, the planning escalated dramatically. As the former Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, he had witnessed the complete destruction of cities and nations, and he was obsessed with ensuring the American government could endure a nuclear decapitation strike. This obsession gave birth to the Continuity of Government Program, or COG. Deep inside Raven Rock Mountain in Pennsylvania, the Army carved out Site R, a subterranean command center complete with its own power station and underground reservoir. In Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains, they built Mount Weather, a sprawling underground complex that would serve as the civilian equivalent. These were not mere shelters. They were self-contained arks designed to house thousands of pre-selected personnel for months on end. On June 15, 1955, Eisenhower secretly tested the system during Operation Alert, a nationwide civil defense drill. As sirens blared across the country, the president, his cabinet, and thousands of designated federal employees reportedly evacuated from Washington, D.C. to various classified emergency locations. The public saw a drill. For those involved, it was a dress rehearsal for the end of the world. Meanwhile, the very airwaves were weaponized. In 1951, the Conelrad system was established. In an attack, all radio and television stations would go silent, except for two frequencies on the AM dial, 640 and 1240. That sudden, coordinated silence would be the first and only official sign that Armageddon was underway. The most audacious of these secret projects was hidden in plain sight, beneath the manicured lawns of a world-famous luxury resort. It was codenamed Project Greek Island, but today it is known as the Greenbrier Bunker. In the late 1950s, between 1959 and 1962, under the guise of adding a new hotel wing, the U.S. government built a massive 112,000 square-foot fallout shelter directly beneath the Greenbrier in West Virginia. The facility was designed to house the entire U.S. Congress. It had dormitories, a power plant, a 25-ton blast door, and a complete medical clinic. It even featured a television studio for broadcasting post-apocalyptic addresses to whatever remained of the nation. For 30 years, it was maintained in a state of constant, silent readiness by a small group of government employees working undercover as hotel audio-visual staff. The beds were always made. The supplies were always stocked. It was a ghost capital, waiting for a doomsday that never came. But saving politicians was only the first step. The next phase of the plan was far more sinister, focusing not on rescue but on control. A series of secret emergency executive orders were drafted, ready to be signed the moment the first bomb detonated. These orders would grant the surviving federal authorities absolute power over the ruins of America. Executive Order 10998, signed on February 16, 1962, would allow the seizure of all food resources and farms. Executive Order 10999, also signed on February 16, 1962, would authorize the takeover of all forms of transportation, from commercial airliners to your family car. Executive Order 11000 signed on February 16, 1962, would allow for the mobilization of civilians into work brigades under federal supervision. The plans made a chilling assumption. The American people, irradiated, starving, and desperate, would not be citizens to be helped. They would be a threat to be managed. The government's first post-attack priority was not distributing aid. It was imposing martial law and suppressing the inevitable riots among the dying. The ultimate fear of the Doomsday planners was decapitation, a surprise attack that would wipe out Washington, D.C. before the order to retaliate could be given. To solve this, President Eisenhower made one of the most terrifying decisions of the Cold War. He secretly pre-delegated the authority to launch nuclear weapons. This authority was given to theater commanders in the field, men who commanded the nuclear-armed bombers of the Strategic Air Command or the Polaris missile submarines hiding in the depths of the ocean. If they were cut off from communication with the president, and if they had reason to believe a major attack was underway, they had the power to single-handedly initiate a full-scale nuclear war. The system was designed for an automated, unstoppable response. General Curtis LeMay's B-52S were in the air 24 hours a day, circling their fail-safe points, waiting for the go code. The entire Doomsday machine was on a hair trigger, and the final decision to end human history might not be made in the White House, but by a lone, isolated commander who believed the world was already over. The final protocol was not a single order, but a horrifying, pre-planned cascade. It was the complete removal of restraint. The open loop's question was what terrifying assumption the plan made about the people left behind. The answer is that it assumed they were no longer relevant. In the cold calculus of the COG planners, once the bombs fell, the survivors ceased to be a population to be governed. They were a resource to be controlled, a threat to be neutralized, or a statistic to be ignored. The shadow government was not designed to save you. It was designed to outlive you. Its primary function was to ensure the survival of the state as a legal and military entity, even if the entire nation it represented was a radioactive wasteland populated by ghosts. Many of these bunkers, like Raven Rock and Mount Weather, remain operational today, their systems upgraded for modern threats. The Doomsday protocols have evolved, but their core logic, a chilling belief in the necessity of a government that can survive its own people, remains. The greatest secret of the early Cold War was not a new type of bomb or a clandestine spy ring. It was a meticulously detailed, fully funded blueprint for a future that no one was ever meant to live in. A future where your own government had already decided that your survival was not part of the plan.